Okay, so I'm going to teach you today a couple of strategies when you're working on your virtual museum. The first slide is intended to be an intro slide where you tell me about your Native American tribe and the region that they lived in, which is important because we have to know about their climate and the resources they had available to understand how they adapted to that climate and used those available resources. And so it's set up for you to identify the region, the location, and the environment with some details and bullets, which you could certainly do, but it would be a lot cooler if you added images or made multiple slides. And so I'm going to show you how to do that. So if you wanted to click on this box and go to a different slide where you could put information about the Iroquois, the first thing you need to do is insert a new slide. And when you insert that new slide, you can add a title. And let's just say our title is the Iroquois of the Eastern Woodlands, and you can put information there. To link it to the original slide, you simply right click and you look for a button that says link. Hyperlink in this case. And you have a couple of choices: existing file or web page, place in document, or email address. We are going to go to place in document, and this is going to be linked to, let's find our titled slide, the Iroquois of the Eastern Woodlands. Now, if we're in full screen mode, we should be able to click on the box and go right to our new page of information. Okay, so that's one way to do it. Another way would be to add an image. So maybe we can delete the other boxes for now, and we can insert a picture. And I'm talking about the tribe of the Iroquois. So I would like to have a picture of the 5 or 6 nations or so. Now I can put it on like this, or I could even delete these slides in the background, make my museum wall longer, and fit this appropriate image size-wise within the new museum exhibit. One thing I like to do to kind of spice up how the images look is change their style. So I'm clicking on the image, I'm going to style, and I always pick this one. It gives it a little bit of a shaded background and it makes it pop out a little bit more. Okay, this is another idea. Let me put it in slideshow mode to show you what it looks like when it's finished. For geographic location, you can see I inserted 2 maps, but I also added features like circling or highlighting different areas. So if I were talking or making a voiceover for this slide, it would show the person exactly where to look. And I also want to show you how to do that. So you go insert image to get the map in there, just like I did with the 6 nations. To do a slide, or excuse me, to do a shape, you go to insert shape. And I usually do circles because I like to circle things. You put it on there. But that one has to be adjusted. So you hit right click and fill. You want to go no fill. And the outline, you can weigh it a little bit bigger. I like to use the eyedrop feature to change the color. I'm going to make mine the same color as the other circles. Okay, now that's just going to be there unless I annotate it or animate it, I should say. So you can go to animations, and you have a lot of different choices when it comes to adding an animation. Let's make this one bounce in. Okay, and if I wanted to take it another step further with my animation, I could then perhaps make it teeter or wiggle to get the attention. So let's see what that looks like when we're in full slideshow mode. Okay, here comes our bounce, and here comes our wiggle. There we go. Okay, and the whole time we would be talking or doing a voiceover while we were pacing those specific ovals coming down and sharing information. Another thing you can do is put in slides of what it looks like there, just big pictures. And while you're describing or talking about your region, you can show actual images. I transitioned mine from summer to fall. Okay, for environment, I have other images and more text. And all of these things about the location, the environment, they all come before you even get to the virtual Native American History Museum. Okay, if you have any questions, please feel free to email me. Let's set up a room together. I think we should look at food. Okay. In the museum, I want you to be able to clearly see the artifact on display. There shouldn't be many words, except you have to change the title to, in my case, Foods of the Iroquois. You would make yours appropriate to whatever tribe or region. I have Iroquois face pottery and a bone knife to carve pottery. Those aren't the best artifacts for food, but they're good for my demonstration. I'm going to go to Insert and Picture. I'm going to find something that's food appropriate, like this Iroquois vase. Once I have it on here, it's quite large, and I don't like the black background. So if I hit the Format button and remove background at the top, it's pretty good, except for there's a couple of areas that got highlighted that I really would like to keep as part of my vase. So you select the tool that says Mark Areas to Keep, and it does a pretty good job. There's a little bit of a tip there, and perhaps this base. Okay, I'm pretty happy with that. So I'm going to hit keep changes, and that's how I get an artifact to be in my museum. And again, you can turn it, rotate it, and you can put it as an artifact to explore. Now, it should automatically link back to the slide that gives us information about that artifact. But if it doesn't, a good way to do that is while you're clicking on the artifact, you hit hyperlink. And these are artifacts that go with room 2 and 3 for exhibit 2 and 3, or excuse me, 1 and 2. That's food. So I want to link it to pottery. Now, when I'm in full slideshow mode, when I click on this lovely piece of pottery, it's my new artifact, it should take me right to the pottery section. Now, this has a lot of detailed information. It says the Iroquois potters were women. They frequently decorated their pots around the rim. On the right, you can see a sample of a human face. The meaning of these human effigies or human faces is unknown, but they're rarely as big and bold as the example that I have down below on on this image here. Although shards from broken pots will last for a very long time when they're buried in the ground, a clay pot itself was really fragile and it cracked easily during use. So the broken pot that you see here was put back together by an archaeologist. Okay. Now that we're back in room 1 about food, you can also do a slide that has a lot of content. This one says the Iroquois were hunters as well as gatherers. They gathered wild greens and seeds and nuts and fruit. The crops were the basis of their diet, though, were corns, beans, squash, and pumpkins. Corns, beans, and squash were referred to as the three sisters. That corn could be dried and made into soup, ground into flour to make mush, boiled to make bread. The corn, beans, and squash are so special that the community had songs about them. And the Iroquois created and carved elaborately decorated clay pots to store the corn and beans. They dried berries, corn, meat, fish, and squash for the winter, and the deer meat was their supplemental food. Deer meat was their main meat, but it was supplemented by rabbits, squirrels, and other small game and animals. And you can see a picture of dried corn here. I've added an animation so that the text stretches out and disappears, and the corn stretches out and disappears. And now we are back to the gallery, and we can click on the bone knife. Actually, when you click on the bone knife, a little did you know popped in. I simply added the text box in the image and animated them to fly in from the left at the same time together. I'll show you how to do that next. Okay, so I went to Insert Image, and then I went to Animation, Fly In. When I went to the animation pane, I changed Fly In under Effect option to fly in from left. And it shows you what it would look like. And then the box I changed to fly in from left as well, but I hit start with previous, which means both of them go at the same time. So when these disappear, this animation pops in. Okay, my bone knife is not transferring to the room where it needs to be. So when I click on the box, I'm going to hit hyperlink. to a place in the document, and in this case, it's going to exhibit number 2. Okay, now let's see if that works. So I'm in the museum, my information disappears, my did you know pops up. I go to click on the bone knife, and then I am in the bone knife exhibit. If you remember, you can get the background off of the bone knife pretty easily. I'll show you how to do that one more time. When you have the knife highlighted, you go to Format, Remove Background, mark the rest of the areas to keep. I want to keep the knife tip, and I want to keep the knife face, keep changes, and there it is. And you can add information about it. You don't have to keep the text in here either. Okay, so decorations on clay pots were commonly made by incising or scratching the design into the surface of the clay before the pot was baked in the fire. And these bone tools, or this bone knife like the one shown here, were responsible for making those engravings or etchings. Okay, next on my PowerPoint, if I'm back at the museum gallery, would be shelter or housing. And when I click on the shelter, I put in 2 different images, a longhouse, which I titled Exhibit Number 3 Iroquois Longhouse, and palisades, which are these big defensive forts that in this case surround the village and protect them from other natives attacking. And when you click on those, I want to be able to go to the slide with the information about each, and I don't know if I set those up yet. I have not. So let's go back then to my main slide. I need to hyperlink this image within this document to room number 3, exhibit 3. Okay, and then this one needs to be linked to exhibit number 4, which it is. Great. Now, when I'm in slideshow mode, I should be able to click on the longhouse, and then it brings me to the slide where I've been working on my information for the longhouse. I was resizing this longhouse to put in the box here. And I should probably, okay. That was a YouTube video that I wanted to maybe include. First, I'm going to fix the style of my image, give it a little shadow background. So there are several sorts of houses that the people of the Eastern Woodlands built. The most popular was a wigwam, which is kind of like a dome that's made out of bark and sticks. It's like a miniature version of a longhouse, or like a condo compared to the full longhouse. It's covered in bark and made out of the same sort of structure. The longhouse housed several families, and they relied on branches and saplings to make the structure, and then they would frame it. They often wove reeds together to make mats for the walls and the floors, and many families on the mother's side would move into the same longhouse together. I would need to edit this text over here to make it flow smoothly. And if I wanted to add a video, I've got 3 options. Number 1, I could just copy the YouTube link in there, and whoever's watching the PowerPoint could just control click, and it will bring you to the YouTube video. In this case, the video is about housing. Okay, another option I have is that I could go to share and take the embedded code, copy the code, go back to my PowerPoint and insert video online. I could put the embedded code in here and hit enter, and I should get a video that pops up. And when I click on it, it should be the same video that was just playing on YouTube. There it is. Now that's good, but you can't edit this clip. Whatever you put on here will play. So the other option you have is that you can download the video and save it as a file. And if you do that, you can insert a video from your PC. I happen to have the Longhouse video right here. And when I've inserted my own video, then I can trim it and I can just take a certain section of the video that I want to show. Maybe that's just specifically about the housing. Maybe this clip right here. Oh, that doesn't look like a house. This clip right here. And then I can just put in a certain version of the video. So it depends on if you've downloaded it or not. Okay, so those are my helpful hints for today. Adding images, making them animated, making them arrive and disappear, taking out the backgrounds, linking your artifacts to your exhibit page, and inserting video. You can also insert sound in the same way, except for you go to insert and audio. You can record your voice. You could do a screen recording, or you can add music. And again, if you add music and you have it downloaded, then you can add a portion of the song. Otherwise, the whole song will play. I hope that this video was helpful in some way for you as you're working through this epic project. Okay, you can always email me if you have